let's just talk about really quick what to do to get from close guard to a back control, okay? And that's going to be an arm drag. So when I have Coach Jade right here, let's say Coach Jade, she knows she needs to start passing my guard, right? So she starts moving this leg to break close guard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get her elbow across my midpoint. And what we call a midline, a midpoint, it's like from your belly button to your nose, you have this line that's dividing you in half. The second I get Jade across that midline is I can start utilizing that to start getting back exposure right here. So she's trying to pass my guard, I'm trying to break her posture, but I'm able to move her arm right here, and now I'm going to hook either her lat or her hip. I do not want to hug her head. This is the biggest mistake I see. Okay, I've heard arguments that you want to grab the lat right here to hold on to. I've heard arguments that you want to get to the hip. As long as you're pinching your chest towards this arm so she can't get it back across the midline, and as long as you're not grabbing the head, because once you grab the head, she can move her hips and her upper body still and get this back. So what I'm going to do is as she moves across, I'm going to pull this across, or I'm going to make her do it, or I'm going to trick her into doing it, like as I'm going to let her think that she's passing this guard and she commits. Watch myself connecting my chest right to her back to get that exposure. And I'm using this hand like a praying mantis arm to lock her in place. So that way, when she tries to get this arm back, you can't get across the midline, and I'm going to start exposing this back control. Okay? And I'm not going to get too deep into this because this is not a session on how to get to the back. It's a session on close guard. But what's very nice is having an option to attack the back when you're in close guard. So as I'm right here, what I like to do is I like to bring her to the back rather than trying to chase the back, because if I don't have both hooks in and Jade starts to lift her hips, you see, because my hips are on top of her hips, she has some control and I don't have complete autonomy over my hips. So what I try to do is as she's trying to break that guard, right, I'm going to push her across, walk in right here, hooking this right here. As I shift over, I'm actually going to pull her hips to me. So I'm going to create some space. I'm going to pull her back down to the mat. I'm going to get both my hooks in. A crucial back take includes both hooks, where I'm hooking her hips. I'm applying pressure down on her hips right here. All right? I'm getting a seatbelt grip, which we already talked about in the intro course, so I won't get deep into it. And I have my back take and back exposure. So that's another option to get to a very dominant position from closed guard. Now, let's actually go this way. So let's see it from right here. Let's scooch over just a little bit since we're going to be moving that direction. All right, so she's going to be trying to pass my guard or something. I'm going to use that to move this across the midline, come up, and you see how I hook in right here. And as I shift my hips out, I'm going to start pulling her back. All right, boom, 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 boom. Okay. Another way what we can do this that Jade just kind of pointed out to me is as I move this across, however I do it, I typically like to arm drag. It doesn't matter, you just gotta get across the midline. Now I gotta make sure she can't get this arm back, so I glue right here. As I'm right here, if her arm is exposed, I love using this arm as leverage to pull her back right into that back take. Get both my hooks in, pressure, and glue my chest to her back, ear to ear.
I do that too much.
So, right, that I think is a very important move that we need to be aware of, especially when we're in someone's close guard, that we don't make the mistake of moving across the midline, because that's how you're going to get your back taken, that back exposure. And at the same time, this is a very important way for me to start learning how to move my hips in different directions. When I'm in a closed guard, I'm showing you a couple things where my hips get to stay stagnant, but oftentimes I'm going to need to be shifting my hips out like this. Let me do it the other direction so they can see. As I get here, I need to shift my hips up over her leg like this, so I'm not sitting in the pocket. If I'm stuck in this pocket, nothing's going to happen. I need to shift my hips out. I start dominating her hips in this, all right, as I pull her to the back. But as we start doing other things in the future, it's going to be important that I'm going to be able to shift my hips out in order to start attacking certain things. There's times to stay in the pocket and times to shift out of the pocket, and we're going to learn that. okay? Especially when we get to the gi, where I can control her upper body a little bit more with grips, okay? But you notice, like when we do a flower sweep, I stay in the pocket. My hip stays in the pocket. But when we get onto things like scissor sweeps, I'm going to need to come out of the pocket in order to make this happen. But this is a great one where I'll go this way. As I shift right here, I have to get my hips out of the pocket. And now I can start attacking the back. Boom. So now, from closed guard, we have a few awesome ways to sweep to get to mount, depending on what our opponent is doing. And now we have a great way to get to the back as well.